Will this Ethereum stock hit $5,000 per share? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the future, which has now become the present. My online name is Bitmine and my real name is Torbjørn Breum. In today's video, we're taking a look at Bitmine Immersion Technologies, which is a stock that is traded on the New York Stock Exchange. It has ticker BMNR. And what is Bitmine? Well, Bitmine is the leading Ethereum Treasury company in the world, implementing an innovative digital asset strategy for institutional investors and public market participants. So basically, what they are is that they're Ethereum Treasury company. So if you know about MicroStrategy, just now called Strategy, they are a Bitcoin strategy, a Bitcoin Treasury company. So they their whole thing is buying Bitcoin and holding it, and when Bitcoin price rises, the stock price rises. So it acts as a proxy for buying Bitcoin, because institutional investors cannot buy crypto directly. They have all kinds of regulations and crazy stuff, so they have to buy some kind of proxy. That could be ETFs or ETPs or ETNs or treasury companies. So Bitmine Immersion is basically just a copy-paste of that whole thing that MicroStrategy is doing, just for Ethereum. And besides that, they are also taking this Ethereum that they buy and put it into DeFi. So staking, native staking, and I also believe some DeFi staking and other things. Bitmine Immersion also has this thing called the alchemy of 5%, which is where they want to buy up 5% of the total Ethereum supply. Now, the catch is Ethereum doesn't have a fixed supply. So buying 5% of the supply, well, that could be challenging depending on the supply rate, but more on that later. So let's take a look at who's behind this Bitmine Immersion. Well, on the team, we have Tom Lee. Tom Lee, if you don't know who he is basically a Wall Street guy. He has this thing called Fundstrat, where he does some research, and he has worked in other companies, and he's also known for CNBC, where he does a lot of stock talking and stuff like that. So yeah, he's your neighborhood friendly Wall Street guy. And he's very bullish. I haven't seen anybody on the internet as bullish as this guy. And then there are these other people, I don't know who they are. So that's Bitmine Immersion and what they're doing. So let's take a look at why am I even saying that this stock could hit $5,000 per share? Well, it's actually not my words, it's this guy. So let's take a look at what he's saying.
Bitcoin gets to 250,000, which is our view, and Ethereum trades at its 8-year average ratio, that's 12,000 Ethereum. If it gets to the 2021 high, that's 22,000 Ethereum. We believe Ethereum is, because it's the future of finance, well, it's going to be a payment rail. That gets to 62,000 Ethereum. But what if Bitcoin gets to 1 million? That would value Ethereum at $250,000. So you can imagine, let's take this chart again, that Bitmine's price follows Ethereum's price. But then let's look at the future price levels for Ethereum. 22,000, 62,000, and 250,000 Ethereum. Well, using that coefficient, that would put $500 Bitmine share price at 22,000 ETH. At 62,000 ETH, 1,500 is the implied price for Bitmine. And of course, at $250,000, the implied price for Bitmine is 5,000 a share. Now, of course, this is per share levels. These are implied from using Ethereum's price in that coefficient.
Okay, so what he's basically saying is that if Bitcoin hits $1 million, then Ethereum will hit $250,000, which implies a price of $5,000 per share. Now, he also says that this is if Ethereum achieves the future of finance and payment rails and stuff. So yeah, and we can see here from this little chart that if Ethereum hits $22,000, that's $500 Bitmine share price at $62,500, that's $1,500 per share. And you can see down here the coefficient, so 0.015 times ETH plus ETH share. So yeah, So, well, he certainly seems bullish. This whole video is actually about something else. It's about increasing the amount of shares, because he later argues that if Bitmine hits $1,000 per share, well, then not many people will buy the stock, so they need to issue more shares. But that's not for this video. You can take a look at this video yourself. But anyway, so that's kind of interesting. So let's take a look at how is the Bitmine share price doing right now. And currently, it's trading at $31.29. Now, if we look at the 6-month chart, because back in August is when Bitmine Immersion, they transformed from being a Bitcoin mining stock or something else to an Ethereum Treasury company. We can see here that the stock price rose a lot. There was really hype back in August. So it rose all the way to $62 per share. And then it fell a bit and then rose again and then down. And now we are here at $31.55. Now, that also means that a lot of the investors which have bought into this stock after it became an Ethereum Treasury company are down quite a lot, including yours truly. But, let's take a look at Bitmine Immersion here. So if we go to this strategic ETH reserve website, we can see some more stats. We can see Bitmine Immersion is by far the largest Ethereum Treasury company. There are lots of other companies here. Some of them are not companies and some of them are not, at least not Ethereum Treasury companies, but just the holdings of Ethereum. But looking at this, we can see Bitmine Immersion and Sharplink Gaming. Those two are definitely Ethereum Treasury companies. Sharplink Gaming is a whole nother video. But anyway, Bitmine Immersion, we can see here that they currently hold 4.07 million Ethereum, which is worth $12.79 billion. And that amounts to 3.36% of the total Ethereum supply. We can also see that they have $1 billion cash on hand. So yeah, that's quite a lot. And they are 67% of the way to hit their target. So remember when I said that they had the alchemy of 5%, which is why they want to buy up 5% of the total Ethereum supply. And currently, we can see that they are 67% of the way with 3.36% of the total Ethereum supply. So looking at Ethereum has a total supply of 120.6, almost 120.7 million Ethereum. So that's quite a lot. And we can also see here that the max supply is infinite. So why is that? Well, looking at Ultrasound Money, which is a website where you can see everything about Ethereum and all kinds of stuff, we can see here that the yearly growth of the Ethereum supply is currently 0.8%. And if we zoom out this chart a bit, we can see here that since the merge, which was when Ethereum hit changed from proof of work to proof of stake, the Ethereum supply went down a bit and now it has gone up a bit. So why this up and down? Well, that's because Ethereum works with this thing called a burn and minting. So Ethereum validators, which validate the Ethereum network, they earn by minting new ETH whenever they verify the blockchain and make these attestations and stuff and produce blocks. They get minted new ETH. So as a thank you for validating the network and securing the network, they get some newly minted ETH. They get transaction fees and stuff. So you constantly have a increase in new ETH, but at the same time you have the burn mechanism, and the burn mechanism is whenever Ethereum is spent, so whenever somebody makes a Ethereum transaction, a part of that Ethereum transaction fee is burnt completely. And by burnt completely, it means it's gone forever, doesn't exist anymore, it's nowhere to be seen. So whenever you have a lot of activity on the Ethereum network, you have a high burn rate, which means that the supply growth rate can be negative because more ETH is burned than minted. But if you have less transaction fees and less activity on the network, there will be a lower burn rate, and the mint rate will therefore be higher or the same depending on the amount of validators, of course. But that also means that the growth supply rate of the Ethereum network will be positive, which is what we have currently. So what it also means for Bitmine Immersion is that when the supply growth rate is positive, they will have to keep on buying more Ethereum each and every year to make sure that they hold 5% of the total Ethereum supply. And if we look at some more info about Bitmine Immersion, we can see here their total holdings, and we can see here that the value of that Ethereum is $13 billion. This other side said $12 billion. So, but yeah. And they are currently trading at an MNAV of 0.92. Now, the MNAV is, I think that's says, well, how much is the Ethereum worth in the company versus what is the market cap of the company? And when the MNAV is below 1, that basically means that the Ethereum within the company is worth more than the market cap of the company. And that's what we have currently. So that's also kind of interesting that the stock is trading at a negative MNAV. Now, this MNAV you would want to have at least at 1. It doesn't really make sense to have it lower than 1. But of course, that's the market, so it is lower than 1. But hopefully it should become more than 1, and also with a premium, which is what you hope for in the future. So yeah, that's basically the Bitmine Immersion stock. But let's take a look at, he said that Bitcoin would hit $1 million and Ethereum would hit $250,000. So looking at the current Ethereum price, it's at 3,159.32 cents. So that means there's quite a long way to hit $250,000 per Ethereum. The all-time high of Ethereum is $4,946. So there is quite the long way to go to hit $250,000. And looking at Bitcoin, we can see that Bitcoin is currently at $92,978.37. And Bitcoin's all-time high is $126,080. So yeah, that means that Bitcoin currently would have to do a little over 10x to get to $1 million. Now, is that possible? I don't know. You tell me. And is it possible for Ethereum to hit $250,000? And will they correlate? If Bitcoin rises, will Bitcoin also rise? And besides that, if Ethereum rises in price, will the Bitmine stock price also rise? Those are the big questions. But Tom Lee, he certainly seems bullish. So that's it. Now you know a little bit more about why Bitmine Immersion might or might not hit $1,000 per share. Now, remember again, this video is not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy this stock. I'm not telling you to sell this stock. I'm telling you to do your own research, okay? So with that said, I think that's enough. Here at last, I just want to make a quick advertisement for my cross-chain DEX called Deepouch, where you can buy, trade, and sell many different cryptocurrencies with no KYC and none of that nonsense. So if you're into cryptocurrency for the right reasons and you care about your privacy, well, then check out Deepouch. Also on Deepouch, you can buy Ethereum directly, so no need to buy a proxy. Nothing wrong with buying proxies, but having the real thing is probably a good idea. But anyway, not financial advice. All right, with that said, I'll see you guys in the future. Take care.